So since on the chapter 1 to 5, so again, with the development course, so we say that up to 9 chapters something, 8 chapters, but this doesn't have that much. No, just like highlight points we have. But when we talk about this, we'll be talking too much in deep. So development topics we can't add generally, put couple of points here, then it'll go on. So high level topics we generally put it here. That's the reason it looks like very simple. And what I want to do is I want to focus much on these 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is like um, just like we wanted to understand how things would work, but we're not going much deeper here. But there are sections where we wanted to go much deeper is I would say so which are the points that we want to discuss. Yes, it's highlighted here. Why is so slow? Let me close few things. There are so what I was saying is, so yes, of course we would learn of the basic apex, and then so you'll be learning about so till this what we have been seen into. So yes, of course VF and the wave controllers I'm not running here much, and the highlights of fifth point would be here on so I'm going to start with advanced apex basics. So in the advanced apex basics, so again I would cover a few things. Let's see, what do you want to do? Async programming. Asynchronous programming that will include batches, futures, a couple of them we have there. Um, so use my data. So basically it's called this. Like how we have custom setting something. So this would be underscore indeed. So we'll just come to this letter sign, meta types relationship. So what else? It's dynamic programming. So dynamic programming either come little friend or somewhat it is. We'll have this and then we would write advanced test class scenarios. So anyway, we are into say Salesforce Dev course. Plus, this advanced Apex basics would help us to little move forward for us to the next stage. And then when we start the actual advanced course, So yeah, so we will be looking into more about mm, so we'll highlight, just put an highlight here. So then later I will cover it. So integrations I'll cover. So then again I'll cover how components works, and then little more deeper onto the LWC, and then few um, ideas about how CPQ works, and then which are the other clouds. So if I get a chance to say that how a bot would work, um, what else? How a health cloud would work. So basically, we have left out with the few clouds, so we'll cover that. So let's say for something commerce cloud, how the would look like, financial cloud, how the would look like, financial cloud, and then commerce, financial, health cloud. So let's have at least the basic discussions here, so that you will have an idea. So since you guys have seen so far, I think this I get another point here. Sixth point. It's all about the clouds we discuss: e-commerce cloud, financial cloud, health cloud, and EDA. So it's education, based in the education is also we discuss. So we have seen so far with sales cloud, service cloud, marketing cloud, something that high level things we've seen. But something with commerce, okay, community also let's have community cloud, commerce cloud, financial cloud, health cloud, EDA. So these are the other topics which will help you out in at least high level things of understanding what Salesforce are using it and where it can be effectively used. Because when talking about this, you would be at least getting to know Salesforce terms. So before just getting to this, I want to talk about deployments. So 60 point is deployments. How do we do, and if we want to have anyone have a code repository check-in, let's check that also. Code repository check-in idea, ideas and thoughts we can share there. How do we do a deployment? We'll do check. If anyone's want to understand about the scratch hogs, so all that we'll discuss here in the terms of 6 and 7, because we know high level things of programming, how to do it. If I wanted to implement something CI/CD, how do things can go on? But this will be very interesting and useful course. Where the moment when I say advanced course, I wanted to cover most of the things, at least an high level thing. So when you just jump in for a project, it shouldn't be any new things here. Let it be tools. Okay, let's have a discussion on tools also. I think tools would very beginning when we'll start discussing. It shouldn't be that. So that should be in notes where effectively which are the tools would be using it. So notes under um, tools we would be using for our tools would be not using tools we should be aware of while working with Salesforce. Any Salesforce development project you guys are working, so you need to know those many tools. Let's discuss on those also. Of course, here you guys would have been learn few tools, and that would be again advanced level of those, and we'll be working on them. So that is what it is. So we're gonna talk integration a little more deeper on how REST server is gonna work. In the REST, how a couple of methods are involved. HTTP methods are involved, and then so we're gonna discuss about how a SOAP-based service is an example. SOAP-based examples. We're gonna stop talk here. In our components, how it's not our components, it's our framework. We'll take it as framework. And here we'll be talking about components bundle. In LWC is a framework where we'll be talking about um, compare, aura, and implement. So prior coming to the LWC or Aura framework, so I would say that a refreshment of your JavaScript is required. So if the refreshment of JavaScript is not, I mean, JavaScript you don't have an idea. So I would just give some highlights of tutorials. You should go just check how JavaScript would work. So EPQ, yeah, it's a cache, price and quote. How does generally it works? So this would relate to a sales terms, sales cloud. Okay. Sales terms, majority of the sales terms would be there here. So bot, this is an additional thing which I'm trying to bring it up. So if how do we configure basically? How do we configure? So this would be helping in service cloud. So bot comes for the service cloud. So how do we configure bot? So this is very important. This is an instant bot. So we'll see how do we train the bot with the. So this we have to check whether in free aux this is available or not. This we have to freely check. And development, how do we do? Is it via through SFDX or through a normal chain set? Just like how we're going to discuss. And then if you're trying to do with the VS Code, how do we do it? So any other methodology that we have for deployment? So we'll see something like flow sum we have. So we'll just give highlights of how the deployments happens actually. And code repository, yes. So we have to just connect on the Git or any Azure or Git Azure or else. So or else Bitbucket, something like this. And this is um, cloud use case and discussions. So I don't know whether if you have already about at least now high level things about this or heard about this would be best, or if it is new, it's also fine. And I think if you cover this majority of this, then we are in a good pace. So generally, any 5 years plus experience, 5 years experience, a professional will have at least ideas of what we're talking about in code dev course. So where we are missing, I mean, not added to the visual first space, but that is not having that much of a hype in the market. Salesforce this, advanced course this. If we have known about at least an ideas of how it is working, so then yes, we are niched. So any questions here?
No.
Is it too many? So I would expect that this will complete till March. So that is there.
It's not too much, but yeah, these are the basics, right?
So I had it very the topic very high level. Have to get in more deeper.
Oh, okay.
I mean, in terms of integration, at least you guys would have been heard about REST, SOAP, something. This is generally
Yeah,
application.
which I'm still good.
Oh yeah, I have worked with REST and SOAP.
So what about Muti? Did you get a chance to work on it?
Yeah, web services, yes.
Perfect. Mm, okay. So where we will be focused on majority is this guy, LWC, and what is things we have to add. And what are the things? These are the key benefits like CPQ and other clouds you know how to deal with. And whatever you deploy, sorry, whatever you develop, how do you deploy that? If that configuration things you know, then it's pretty good. Okay, so it's not something here limited. So whichever I wanted to add the notes, so I keep adding them into topics. Okay, so let me get back to the course syllabus. So when we want to talk about the basic programming, so first things would come to our mind is always. So I put as chapter one and two. Chapter one is that just comparing with the Java, chapter one and two. Let's take an online example of something. What happened here? It's so late. Sorry guys, I think a little slow here with the system. Mm, so let me record it. So yeah. So in the chapter 1 and 2, we're going to compare how Java and Apex are related. So why? Because we see they all fall in the OOPS concepts. So that's the reason we can correlate them, and we'll see how terms and other things are like familiar with this. So anyone has so Murthy, do you have any idea on Java? So you worked, right?
Oh yeah.
So Chamshil also worked. Tushra, you are the beginner there.
Yeah.
No problem. I'm just going to give a simple description about the Java and the Apex tutorial. Just see the difference, how it looks like. Many people should give. Let's go to tutorial points and see. I'm just going to give high level things like not really like I'm going to teach off this what tutorial says. So if you see here, so even they also have basic syntax, object classes, constructors, data types, variables, modifiers, operators, all this way. And in the Apex programs also, if you see, same thing, data types, strings, arrays, constants, collections, classes, methods, objects. So this is put the individual things, that's it. So what the comparison you see here is, if I want to just check any data types, let's say objects and classes. So in idle general program, oops concept, you need to know that polymorphism inheritance something will have. Rightly, we know we use these methodologies, but not like saying that polymorphism encapsulations. We don't say that, but we directly use them into the idea. We just apply the ideas in the Apex. But what you would see majorly here, objects you'd see, classes you'd see, instance methods. So these are very common things where what you do it. But message passing, those things what we don't do. Or polymorphism encapsulation, we don't specifically tell about it. But these are reusable properties, right? So anyway, we can try to have the same sort of knowledge. For example, if you see here classes here, let me just give an example. So let's say this is a class structure we have. Public class, class name, and then some two variables were defined, and then we have simple method to ask for a get calculation and return it. So simple Apex program, I think. So even in the Java, so again, same class name, variables, and you have methods to discuss. So the method would be a method would return or method may not return. You getting? So look at this example, class puppy, and then it has a method here. This method would return something, and this method is just a simple void method. Getting? Same thing here also. It's class, a method name. If you don't specify, if I specify anything like this, it's a return type. So what I'm trying to say is majority of the Java and your Apex programming would not be that great different. So it's all about all the logics which we are trying to use in the basic of core Java. The same thing is applied in the Apex class. What I see is few things when the moment we jump into understanding of the basics, and then when we move on to the next level, so you may be getting into of this how do you query, how do you make a call between the classes. Anyway, one class to another class, you can call their methods and you can reuse them. Kind of inheritance also you can use it. You can write a simple query to perform to get the results, and how do we store them? So all that we can deal with. Something we have collections in Apex. It says, how do you track basically a list of records? How do you deal with the list of records? Like we say list, set, map. The same thing we have a collection type of variables here is some maybe you have seen array. So array is basically is nothing but a list in Salesforce. How do you see this data type as an array? What they do is generally they can have a one or more elements. That is what its array types means here. Even same type of data declarations you can do it in Salesforce also, but we have specifically called as a list. So we would be using list. Even see, even they are also mentioning as a list. I mean, for an example, at least they are mentioning as list. Salesforce says it's a list. This guy says array. Of course, the definition like this also we can directly use, or simply we put a list and then we open a brace and say double. Both are same. So otherwise, you see, this guys have not mentioned about the map. So maps is again a collection of variables with a say key and a key value pairs that will be there. And even in Java also we have something we have like map we have Java's also have map. But I don't see anything here. It's okay. Collection means what? Basically, we are trying to talk about list, set, and then map. Set is like to find identify the unique numbers. A list is like it may have a array of characters or array of records, whatever you have. It can have a duplicate, but sets cannot have a duplicate identity. So map is a combination of list and set. So that is what it is. But otherwise, if you see the majority difference, you can see the core 7 Apex would really match. Few slight changes would be there. Yes, of course, when you go more about the Apex class specific program, yes, about their platform, they would be explaining and what they're doing, they will say here. Because it is the even the today if you see the force.com platform is built on the Java, completely on Java. It's a core Java, and then they have JSP pages also there still. So of course, so when it's built on top of Java, so they would have minimized a few things which is required and which may not require. For example, in Java we have garbage collector. So when the things are not used, we can see some random garbage value would be there in the variables being stored. Such options we don't have in Salesforce at all. So we just say that whether you have value or we directly say you're null. You don't have any value there. So instead of storing some garbage value, which makes the system resource to utilize. So that's the reason the garbage value such things are not present in the Java. Sorry, in the Apex programming. So you can do a comparisons here. If you are a Java programmer, so just compare with this with your Apex at the beginning. So what level you can just compare. So that will be little useful. This is for the who are migrating or just having a basic of Java, but they wanted to know about the Apex. So these are right things where we wanted to compare simple thing and just find out. So any questions here for Jamsil and Murthy? Like any other comparison questions you wanted to ask, you can just ask me on it.
Yeah, good.
No.
Perfect. Otherwise, we'll jump into our dev course where few things we have to learn. When we come to Salesforce, yes, of course, we need to be very familiar with Salesforce Developer Guide. Oh, Salesforce. So Salesforce Developer Guide is very important thing where they would have been explained about what a developer guide is overall doing. I mean, it has a full explanation of right from the beginning of how do you start with Apex, how do you write an Apex and run an Apex, debug and test and deploy. A lot of things we have. For example, if I'm just starting with the writing an Apex, so writing Apex which have a data types and variables, control flows and working with data in Apex. Data type means you just understands about it could be your integer, float, whatever the sorry integer, double decimal, string. So many different types of data types we have in Salesforce. It's common within across any language you have if you are known about it. So such data types variables we are talking about here. Control flow statements. If you have been come across with any flow statements like if else or any for loops that you have been working with. So all this control. So control statement generally talks about if else type only, and then any loops we have. and how do you process through each of the records. So that is what it all talks about. Working with data, yes, we try to query the record, we try to modify the record, and then finally I mean, it's all about you try to play with the records. We just say that either you're inserting, updating, or deleting. It's all about TML, data manipulation things we're doing it. So working with data in Apex. So while writing with the Apex, these are the three things fundamentally we have to understand: what data types have to use, how the logically the flow should go. It is if it is an if block or else block, or it is a for loop block, or it is a do while block. You have to check them, and then so so we have a processing records. How do you do it? Just I want to insert one record. No, bulk records. I want to process one single. No, I want to process query the bulk records. So where you do a select. We don't have anything like select star from sales, for particular object. But they have newly introducing that select star also wanted to be in Salesforce. So that's on the way of the new releases would be coming in. But till now, before the none of the releases has about illustrates select star from the table name. We don't have such. So because they're saying the Salesforce was saying too many use of the uh, so if you use that particular fields, you just get them. So let's say 100 fields I have, but only two, three fields the record is there. I mean the value is present in that. So then keep that select A, B, C. So that particular three fields you query from particular table, that's enough. Instead of getting select star where 100 fields would be queried. So that will utilize the resource. That is what so far they were thinking. But I don't know, in the recent case studies, what we see for the new releases, select star also will be coming in. Maybe what I think is whichever the field has value as null, so they will eliminate. Anyway, they're doing eliminations. If the values are not having any value, they're not displaying anything. I think that approach they are trying to follow for select star. So what I'm saying here is we all trying to deal with. So we all trying to deal with, play with the data and get them. So and either we're trying to show, modify, or delete the record. So these three things are very important. So running in Apex, if you see, so this all comes on to the where how do you test the Apex class? For example, if you have REST service or SOAP service or triggers, how do we invoke in the sense? Let's say you have an ABC class and you have the integration class. How do we utilize like an helper class? You have a class and you have a method, and then you have to pass few params to that method, and that method has to do some XYZ activity. So all this all basically helping you out something to do easy for you. So it is just like reusable things we are using it. So majority we have. So if we go into too deeper, so it will be too much of advancement we have. So yes, of course, we have to get started with the Apex, and then how do we rate Apex? These are the two important things we have right now. So we have to focus on quick on that. So prior to this, I wish to have you guys should have uh, Visual Code, Visual Studio Code should be installed.
Okay.
Hmm. So yeah, I just wanted to say how. Well, guys, I wish you guys have to go to this for sure, developer guide, and you can download the PDF, which will have up to 2005, I mean 2000 pages. But what I recommend is you guys have to, what do you say, at least go through 500 pages of this. It will not be that, just like all again the basics, you keep revising it, but at least 500 to 600 pages you've gone through. So you are pretty good onto the coding standards. At least I expect that where it will help you out. It's a PDF file, so you not to be often going to the browser and then looking into it. So if you have time that you can do, or else you can download a PDF and then you can just go on to them. Again, so while saying that getting started with Apex, they're having giving more clear description about introduction to the Apex. So what is Apex is doing, generally what Apex are used for. So we say majority of 98% or 99% is quite similar to Java, we say. So because even they are also following the object-oriented programming and we also follow the same. Since it is built on the Java, so or even our compilers would compile with the same like how a Java program is doing. So you need not to worry about it. So where and all the Apex program can be used, if you see in multiple places you it can be used. Let's do that also. So where do we use the Apex class? So I mean it's a vast question. So we can say that in so many places it is used. So let's come from the configurations point standpoint. Process builder can invoke Apex class. Getting just offlet going to direct to the programming. I'm saying that the process builder like configuration items can call Apex class. So where there you can use it because process builder itself is solving you many problems, but invoking an Apex class also they're helping out to do some activity where they want to query the records or do some XYZ, a custom logic for you guys. Like even the are flows can call. Flows also can invoke Apex class. Otherwise, the configuration there ends. So only these two guys are familiar with the call Apex class. So other places, if you see, of course, integrations when you want to do, you need to have an Apex class. And when you want to do, okay, let's see, triggers mm, for handling logics, you can write them in Apex class. Triggers for handling logics, you can write them in Apex class. Okay, so that would be as an helper class. So what are the places? So there are so many things you can use it. Even in the Aura components, you can use it. Aura to invoke Apex class we have, and even the LWC can call LWC to call Apex class. So Apex class has a never-ending process; it just keeps going on. So you can't say to the till the latest or whatever LWC we have. So we have an option to call the Apex class. So it's very important to learn this because one-time learning. So the fundamental will be there for a long time. So this would never get vanished. We think that the programming itself is not important. Yes, of course, in future state of Salesforce, where it like down the line 2 3 years, if you see, so majority of the programming things should be gone down, and most of them would be the point click because the ideas of them is not for too technical things. Even in a non-coder also can do some activity on Salesforce. That is what they wish. Yeah, via through these two things, flows and process, they have let's say they achieve 40 to 50% you think. The other 50% onto the technical side, people still working on. So if they optimize their point click tool, of course they can go to the behind of where the coding can be stopped. That's what the important thing is. I mean that is what their idea is all about. Any question, guys?
No.
Yeah, I could have given an idea of writing directly a program, but before starting this I wanted to just give highlights where it is used, how it can be effectively read through, and then what is the comparisons we have. So this is what I want to talk in the chapter one. Otherwise, so this is many more actually. It's an etc. We can say it's too many places we have used, but at least whichever the things that we have come across. So these are the areas that we have to look into it. Okay, so what would be covering in this course in the chapter two? So chapter two, we have to learn about data types. I've just put highlight things. So and again, we have to talk about access modifiers, or specifiers we call, and then let's say how a class, and let's take an example of so this guy was saying, data types. So we have so many data types we have, and when we just jump into data types, we see collections also there, variables, how to define constants. All this will get into it. So so data types and variables will put it off. Will come with the same syllabus type, and access modifiers that will come up where they would have not mentioned here. It's okay, fine. We have to take separately this collection. See, what I want to do is in data types and variables, I wanted to explain how we use it. And let's say data types, variables, constants. I think after the variables, you can have constants. Constants. Okay. So these are the few important things that you can know. Otherwise, access modifiers, you talk about public, public, private, and global. So if you say public, it is across the org it can access. Private, only to that particular class you can access. Global, outside the people also can access. That is what it all talks about. So class and so let's cover here class and methods. So ideally we'll talk about syntax and other stuff here. So what else we have? So of course we have to deal with control statements, control flow statements. We'll just get there. Mm, okay, we'll say collections are important. So then we say control statements, and then we say inheritance and how do you do it at the interface. So this thing's important. Like say how OOPS concept would work. Um, so inheritance and interface, we'll just talk on high level how things can be used. What am I seeing here? So when I talk about control statements, I will talk about if else, and then which majority we are using it. If else, if we can say all that we'll use it. Use for loops very importantly. The for loops could be for each loop or a traditional loop. Both will cover. So both will cover here. You can say while loop also, but that won't be a great loop we're using it. But I will just see an idea how we can present it. Inheritance and interface are important. Collection will have list, set, and map. Class. Um, so we talking about. So let's say class constructors, and then come to methods. So here basically we will talk about more onto the syntax, how to write. And in the terms of methods, we say uh, so we say void or return. Method can have two types only. Either they are return, they are void, or they are not. Whether when I'm calling you, will you return or not return? So that's the main call of this method. Always we have syntax. We'll see how to write them. So inheritance and interface, we have to see how these things goes on. Otherwise, we are good. So yes, this would come under the basics of Apex. So any questions here?
No, I'm good.
How about should I take it today or should we start with tomorrow? Is there?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do tomorrow. I think it's all.
So these are
So
highlights.
yeah,
Yeah. Good.
you want us to install the VS Code?
Yeah. So for me, a prerequisite would be so your VS Code should be configured. So for this priorly, we are installing the VS Code. You just check Trailhead VS Code. Setup Visual Code Studio. So based on the systems, they tell you out. Install the extension for the Visual Studio Code the same, and please follow this extension pack. Visual Studio, download the latest version. Yes. And how do you get an SFDX? So firstly, you have to also have a SFDX to be installed. We call as CLI, Salesforce CLI. Wait, let me
Mm-hmm.
check. I have CLI. Um, and so this is important. So start from here. Install Salesforce CLI, install Visual Code extension pack, and create and deploy the Lightning command. This should be the last one. Don't worry. I mean, we're not going here right now. So once you set up these two things, that's more than enough to play with the code. So they're saying how to deploy the Lightning Web Components, so they will teach. It's okay, fine. But I know when we set up this org, then we are good with creating Apex and then playing with them. And
Can
eventually
you
the
please
same
send
org,
this link?
yeah, we'll send it. Yeah. All I want is to install the command level interface. Go check this link for the Mac OS they have. For Windows, the whole given systems here. And if you have already logged in to this trailage, so while doing this only you can verify and then you can get few points. So it's all about seeing.
So we need an account for Trailhead or just go blindly download?
You just which one? You have a Salesforce org, right? I mean, you have personal org.
Yeah, I think long back. Yeah, definitely.
So what you have to do is you have to go if you forget password, then try to log in as a normal
Mhm.
developer org. How do we log in? This is Trailhead where you try to do login with the same credentials. Whatever you log in with
Okay.
your developer or credential, the same credentials you'll be using for Trailheads. So then
Okay.
this is
Got
one of the important area where you earn points. So it would be helpful in terms of when you just look out for a job. So if some organization they ask you like certification how important, so they will also check your what is your self learning. So Trailhead almost talks about the self learning and all the new releases been put deployed here. So if you are certified, to maintain a certification, of course, you have to write an exam or maybe 5 to 10 questions here in the Trailheads, but taking some
it.
batches or clearing something, right? So we are more of the developers are connected with Trailheads often. So Trailhead points is very important in that case. So that's the reason I recommend people to have a Trailheads account and then maintain all the stuff. So by doing all this, you will get little points, right? So those are important. And again, eventually this will be turned to a batch, one batch completed. So like we have 50 batch completed, one rank. You have 100 batches you complete, you have a rank. So you can probably say that I hold this rank in Trailheads. So two links I'll give you here. So one is this one I saw in the Lightning Web Components link. Another one is I think both are doing the same. Just see because here setting up a playground. So this is the one which you copied. Now this is the other one. So properly how do you install ID? They're giving an example comparison. Let's say in the past you worked on with the Eclipse or something. How do you deal with the VS Code? So they're explaining here. But for me, the first reference which I given that is pretty easy because CLI they don't have here. I think this link is what I've just given is more important. Hmm? Salesforce DX, right? Yeah, this link was important. So let me put in chat also. So firstly, what you have to do is you have to install the CLI. If you check for a Java version you have, very important because many times we get the problems. saying that the VS Code is not functioning properly. The majority problem would be CLI is not configured properly. So first thing is you have to check your Java is installed, Java runtime is installed. Okay, point number one. And then you try to install the CLI. So when the moment you install the CLI, it will automatically figure out where the Java version is installed. It will automatically set the path. So then you can run the VS Code. So they will tell you how to create a project and all. So if not, we will try to show you some how do you create a project and how to work on. So first thing is I wanted to showcase some basic things how it works. So then we'll jump into the VS Code. So you have a time at least 2 days. Tomorrow if I try to do majority of here, then how do we write a class and how do we execute and how do we download the class and then do the stuff. So maybe I will give 1 day tomorrow time. So just do the stuff and the next day, maybe my Tuesday, I'll write the code logic from here and the VS Code and I'll try to deploy to RR and I showcase you how it works. Otherwise, till now we will be on to the what do you say, um, developer console is the one we have. For a quick programming language, developer console is pretty easy to learn on the stuffs. So when you go for a project, yes, of course, you have to deal with more onto the VS Code side. Okay, so guys, meet you tomorrow. I've just sent the link. So I hope everyone has got it right.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, just please just configure this VS Code. So request is for you is please check the Java you have. So how do you check Java? So you can go to the run and quickly you can see the command where simply type Java version. So if you do that, you'll get to know what is the latest of Java version you have. So it will say that yes, this is JDK and this is runtime, all this we have. It'll quickly tell you we have a Java which type of version you have. And so majority they're asking you to have a Zulu to be configured. So very important, guys. So in the process of installing these VS Code and all working, so they will ask you. So mine was a JDK Open JDK Zulu. They asked me to install, so I've installed the 64-bit because my PC is a 64-bit PC. So like you have no Mac OS or something. So again, based on Zulu for Mac OS also they will have. Just check it. So this I wanted to notice for you. Otherwise we're good. So Zulu is very important things in terms of running this VS Code. Okay. So any questions?
No, so Julius, we need to install the Java version or it's already there?
No. We have to install. I think while you are dealing with the installation, so they will
Oh,
tell you.
okay, got it.
So CLI, were you installing it? Hold on. Zulu, I think it's for data loader. Sorry. But anyway, that Java version is helping out. See, it's a JDK runtime environment. No? To load anything runtime environment, again, this thing is used. But just check it out. So if you have open JDK version, this is also is good enough. So JD, I mean Zulu, I had it for data loader things. Yeah, it's all for data loaders. So need not worry about Zulu. It's okay, fine. So majority is you have to focus on whether you have a Java version installed or not. So then Zulu for Salesforce. Let me put this. We have any terms. So yeah, there's no Zulu for it, but CLI is very important. Prior to that, Java 11 or above, this version is important. So they're talking about here. Look at this. And Java for sure you require it. or else the configuration of the path setting will not happen. So make sure you have at least Java version in your PC, and then start installing CLI, and then install VS Code and their respective packages. So you have any questions, you can ask me tomorrow onto this. I will just help you out in case
Okay.
Okay.
if it's not working. Okay. See you guys tomorrow. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you.